Okay, today we're going to be learning how to make a selection within an image. We're going to start off by opening up a picture that we want to use for our project. In this case, I'm going to use the flower as a teaching example. If you want to open up a picture into Photoshop, you simply right-click on it, choose Open With, and Photoshop Elements 12 Editor. As you can see in the photo bin at the bottom, you can have multiple pictures open at one time. You just double click on them to switch back and forth. And right now I'm going to be using the picture of the flower. Our goal today is to learn how to use the selection tools. The selection tools are grouped in the toolbar together in the category called Select. The first selection tool I'm going to show you is the rectangular marquee tool. The rectangular marquee tool, if you go down to the bottom, this now becomes your tool options bar. And in the tool options, you'll see that you have two different tools. One of those tools is a circle. Please notice when tools come grouped together, whichever one you click on last is the one that appears in the toolbar. So when I go down here and I switch to the square selection tool, it looks like a square. When I go down here and switch to the circle selection tool, it becomes a circle. To use those tools, all you have to do is click and hold and drag over what you're trying to select, and you've now officially made a selection. The next selection tool I want to show you is actually the Select Move tool. If you scroll over something long enough, it tells you what it is. It's the Move tool. Now that I'm on the Move tool, I could pick this up and drag my selection anywhere I wanted to. I can also switch down here to the bottom and open up the photo bin, and I can drag this. This is a very important piece here. So I can drag this selection that I've made and drop it onto another project that is open. And you'll notice that I can pull that selection and now use it in my picture anywhere I want to. For now, I'm just going to say undo, and then I'm going to go up to select, deselect. So you've learned how to use three different selection tools. Now, the next tool I want to show you is the magnetic lasso tool. The magnetic lasso tool comes grouped together with two other lassos. I generally don't teach those because the magnetic lasso tool works so much better, and most of my students are going to prefer to use the magnetic lasso tool. So I'm going to go ahead and teach you that one. The magnetic lasso tool kind of looks like an upside down coat hanger. All I have to do is click. It's very important to remember where you first click, because in order to make this tool stop working, you have to come all the way around and reconnect. So where you began is where you end. Once you click the first time, you don't have to click anymore. You just drag your mouse along the edges, and the magnetic lasso tool will try to magnetically stick to the edges of what it thinks you are trying to select. It will not do a perfect job. Don't worry about it. You're not going to be able to do necessarily a perfect job. Sometimes you may bump your arm or something, or slip off the screen or something, and that's okay. If it doesn't do a good job, or you don't do a good job with this tool, it's okay, because you're never ever going to finish a selection with this tool. When you're using the magnetic lasso tool, it's important that all of your item that you're trying to select is on the same, right there on screen. You don't want any of it off screen. You want to be able to see it all on screen. This tool does not like to work off screen. When you do that, it goes kind of haywire. Notice to make the tool stop, I am going to reconnect with the original spot that I clicked on. As soon as I do that, it stops making the selection. Now, again, I said this is a selection tool that you're only going to use for a beginning selection. You're never going to use it for your finished selection. If I press Control, Alt, and use my finger scroll, I can zoom in and out. Control, Alt, finger scroll to zoom in and out. You're going to want to zoom in on your project because you're going to notice that this tool did not do a perfect job of selecting the flower petals. Some of the tips are missing, and some of the water is still there in the background. So this is a great tool to begin with, but it's not a tool you're going to end with. To finish your selection and make it much better, you're going to click on the selection brush. Selection brush comes with a couple of different tools, and one of those is called the mask tool. If it comes up red like this, you are in the mask tool. All you have to do is click on the mask drop-down menu and choose selection instead. Other tools are the quick selection tool and the magnetic wand tool. Right now I'm going to just show you the selection brush. This is the brush you're going to use to finish any selection that you've done with the quick select, the magic wand, or the magnetic lasso. So anytime you use those three tools, those are tools I like to call the easy select tools, because the computer does most of your work. It's kind of easy to use, but they don't do a good job. They don't do a finished work. So you're always going to want to come back to the selection brush and finish your work. Please notice the selection brush comes with an add to selection and a subtract from selection. In the case of the flower petal, I want to add the tip of this petal to it. So I'm going to switch to the add to, and I'm just going to select the rest of the tip of this flower. Okay? I'm going to add the rest of the tip of this flower. It's always best to zoom in a little bit. You'll do a much better job. Of course, right now it's not letting me. Okay, and I'm going to go ahead and add the rest of that flower tip. I notice here there's some water that I don't want part of my selection, so I'm going to click on the subtract from selection, and right now my tool is too big. You can change the size of your tool by going down to the size slider. You can make your tool bigger, and you can make your tool smaller. Now I personally don't like to use this feature because I have to keep leaving the screen and coming back on the screen to see the size of my tool. I prefer to use the left and right bracket key. The left and right bracket key are found under your plus, minus, and your backspace key. I'm going to use the left bracket key to make my tool smaller. I'm going to use the right bracket key to make my tool larger. So I'm going to make my tool smaller, and I'm going to go in here and I'm going to get rid of the water that is still in that selection. And then I'm going to switch to my add to tool, make my tool larger, and I'm going to add the tips, the edges of this flower petal back into my selection. The better job you do with your selection tools, the better your final project will come out, and for the purposes of our class, I guess you could say the better your grade will be. Okay? Now I'm going to pretend that I'm done with that because I want to show you a couple other tools, but you're going to always want to go back with the selection brush to clean up any selections you have made using the magnetic lasso tool, the quick selection brush, or the magic wand tool. I'm going to use my Control Alt, and I'm going to scroll using my finger scroll back out, and I'm going to go to select, deselect, so that I can show you the other tools. The next tool I want to show you is the magic wand tool. The magic wand tool works really well for cartoons, but it doesn't work so well for this. It will do the job, but it'll take you a while with this kind of a picture. To use the magic wand, you just click. It begins a selection. Click on the add to selection and continue selecting. But you'll notice with this type of a picture, because it has so many different shadows and highlights, it's got depth, it's got different colors, that it could take you a while of clicking to get that whole flower selected. This is a great tool, but it works really well with cartoons, not so well with a picture like this. But that's how you use that tool, the magic wand tool. I'm going to go to select, deselect. And I'm going to show you next the last selection tool, which is the quick selection tool. Using the quick selection tool, and again you can change the size of your tool, plus or minus, left and right bracket key. and you just simply click. Once you've clicked, you want to click on the Add To, and you can continue to click. Again, it's an easy select tool. I like to call them easy select tools because the computer does most of your work. But remember, because the computer did most of your work, you can always do better by going back to the selection brush, zooming in on certain areas, and improving that selection using the Add To and Subtract From feature. In this case, I'm going to want to subtract. By the way, as I zoom in on this picture, you're going to notice these little squares of color. Those are called pixels. That's what happens to a picture when we have taken it from a real picture that it might have been hanging on your wall to a digital image. When it digitizes it, it turns it into squares, hundreds and hundreds of squares of different colors and different shadings to create the whole picture. Those are called pixels in a digital image. I'm going to zoom out.